Good morning, everybody. 5 minutes late. That's pretty good for us. That's 5 minutes fast, so I don't take credit for the 5 minutes. But good morning, everyone. I want to welcome Mayor McLean and Chief Hummel today. Welcome to the meeting. So why don't we get started with some roll call?
Klosiger, Westergaard, here. Carlson, absent. Morales,
Here.
Conklin,
Here.
Yankelis,
Here.
Cunningham,
Here.
Donovan,
Here.
Batson, close.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. On to item number 2 with employee recognition. I think that's probably good.
All right, well, I am going to yield my time to Mayor McLean, who is here to say a few words.
Thanks, Rebecca. I really appreciate it. I actually wanted to not only recognize our staff for some things last week, but just talk a little bit about where we've all been and where we're headed. But first, I want to say that I really appreciate the director and the staff of the airport. I'm gonna go like this because there are so many of you here today, which is wonderful. For all that you do at any day of the year to make this airport what it is. But I'd be remiss first not to mention what happened last week. And that's really why I wanted to come today. I planned on doing a visit at some point to chat, but wanted to come today to recognize the steps that our team here at the airport and of course around the community took in response to the hangar collapse. And first I thought Councilmember Morales, our new liaison, that the airport's actually in his district, shared some words last night before and after our moment of silence at our city council meeting in recognition of the 3 people who lost their lives, their families, and then the victims, some of whom are still in critical condition. And then recognizing that everybody associated with those folks and those companies and anybody that was on site is also in many ways a victim and suffering. And so I want to acknowledge that. But there were some folks that stood out that I wanted to recognize today. I'm going to finish with Rebecca and start with your team. First off, the operations folks. I mean, you guys train, everybody trains, whether it be safety folks or operations folks. You train for this, but you never actually think you're going to have to use that train, or you hope that you never are going to use that training that you all train so well for. But I want to call out Alex, our director of operations, Thomas and Colin, as well as Michael Rudd for looking around. Thank you for the work that you did from an operations perspective. This was a terrible incident right on our airport grounds. You guys were here on site, of course, but you responded in such an effective way, and we really appreciate it. I also want to thank Chief Hummel. I saw Chief Hummel in action because I happened to be at City Hall and then joined the second tier comms incident response team, and just watched and listened with my own staff as our first responders and the airport operations was responding to the incident. And Chief Hummel, your leadership, focus, and frankly, just calm, kind nature and thoughtfulness towards the victims and their families as we were thinking about everything else is deeply appreciated, and I know also felt by them. So thank you. And then I want to thank Lieutenant Hunsicker, Sergeant Ramers, and the police team that was here as well for all that you did last week. And I say all this because, as I said, we don't want to have these things happen, but when they happen, we have to be at our best. And I really believe that our team, when it happened, was at our best. And that's why I want to finish with Rebecca. Rebecca also was on that call, so I got to witness your leadership. And it's in times of like crisis and quick thinking that I have really come to believe you learn how people are, who they are, and even more so the skills that they have. And in Rebecca, I saw true leadership, compassion for your staff the next day, care and congratulations for your staff the next day. But again, a calm, focus, and strategic approach to responding to a crisis that's so absolutely necessary in the leaders that we have. So thank you very much. And I want you all to know that because of this team, that you help us think through strategically with how the airport needs to grow, the steps that we need to take. We saw last week incredible response, teamwork, action, and leadership, and the community appreciates this team as greatly, as do I. So thank you, everybody who I didn't call out that was a part of this. Super important, and I'm deeply grateful and truly impressed by the work that was done. But I want to talk about some other stuff too, because this happened, and the training that's required to respond to incidents on our airport happens as our airport is growing. And so I want to talk a little bit about the airport, but in context of what's ahead, and also where we've been. Because, and this is, I've been having these conversations with staff and commissions around the city, because so many people after the election have said, what are you most proud of the last 4 years? What's next, the next 4? And it's really hard to narrow it down to like the most proud. I have a daughter, we used to do this best worst thing when they were kids, and she hated it. I was like, why does she hate it so much? And then I realized I hate it too. I have a son that like can talk forever about his best and his worst. But Madeline and I hate like narrowing things down. And it's hard in this instance to narrow things down, because the last 4 years, I say to staff, but I want to say to staff in front of the commission, our city, and I was elected and came in with big goals around housing and climate and jobs and economic development. But then we were dealt something that no city, and so no team of people has been dealt with in 100 years, and that's a pandemic. And City of Boise staff, employees, and teams showed, as did residents, frankly, that we could both take care of people by putting people and their livelihoods and health first, as well as deliver on the things that Boise asked us to deliver on. And in the midst of that pandemic, we had staff around the city, including at this airport, that had to respond in really innovative ways, create new programs to provide services to people in the absence of others doing that, come up with ways to keep our team safe as the airport continue to function, grow the airport in the midst of a pandemic, even when we had to take a pause on some of the construction because we weren't sure financially what things would look like. But then as soon as we knew, this team got it done, and the parking garage opened last week. And in the midst of all that the city did in providing those services and focusing on housing and pulling teams from every department, including the airport, together to innovate around childcare and licenses and housing ideas and economic development, this airport also became a medium hub and continues to make plans for how we grow and respond to what our residents and our businesses need here on site, so we can continue to support jobs, folks that live here and want to go play elsewhere, need to go work elsewhere, or importantly, the businesses that we want to recruit in here. It's a key economic development tool. So when I think about what's next, I mean, the airport factors a lot into that in so many ways. I want to call out the work that the airport's doing on expansion. You know, we're looking at what's next in terms of new terminals. You were a key partner in some of the goals that we have around clean electricity, where in September, this airport will be powered by 100% clean electricity, thanks to a great partnership with Idaho Power. And really cool work. We shared it, so we're not meeting our full city goal, but we shared it so we get jobs for Micron with Micron. And so Micron and Meta and the city worked together with the PUC and Idaho Power to create a new way to source clean electricity. And when I was here for that opening, it was so cool to hear Rebecca talk about what else is being done as we plan for new, I always mess up the words, but you know, the place that I walk down to get on an airplane, I want to say it's a hangar, it's a Jeffrey, or the terminal, or whatever those things are. I was in Palm Springs this weekend, and their airport is outside, and it rained, and my flight was 3.5 hours delayed, and we had no place to be but in the rain. And I thought, Rebecca, we are so lucky to have you as you're thinking about how we actually grow an airport to keep up with the size of and the number of people that are coming in here, because we're at pre-pandemic levels. When I compared other airports that just never seem to have never taken the steps to respond to the growth, expectation, and needs of their customers. And this airport does that. And in doing that and helping us meeting our climate goals, this airport's helping us meet our jobs goals, with the Micron expansion, with suppliers that will be coming here. It's helping us meet our goals and telling the story about the fact that we are a safe and welcoming city for all. And most recently, I've called on Rebecca and the airport to help us meet other goals, to ensure that we can meet our goals for having a parks within 10-minute walk from our residents, that we can continue to open amenities for our city. And we might be able to do that with help from this airport by creatively working with us. And so always this airport and this team factors into all the work that we're doing beyond getting passengers in and out of Boise. So I wanted to say all that because it also factors into the volunteering that you're doing. And across the city, we have folks that are committed to serving the place they call home. And you give an hour, 2 hours, sometimes longer when politicians come to talk to you about, thinking about how to plan for the future of our city. And you do that out of your work day, out of your school day, and it matters. Because this team, this director, council, and myself look to our volunteers around the city to help us, not only as residents telling us what it is that they want us to do in terms of meeting bold goals, but our resident volunteers that are helping advise so many of our important agencies by sharing their own thoughts and opinions and experiences as it relates to the agency that you're volunteering on. 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing, it was like 10 or 15 folks that wanted to be on city commissions. And it was so fun. It's always a hard decision, but it was also great to then be able to say, you know what, I think instead of this commission, would you be interested in this commission? And never did I get somebody that said no. Residents want to engage just as all of you are, and I really appreciate it. So thank you to each and every one of you for the time that you spend serving our city. And thank you, Rebecca, Director Hupp, as well as all of you and everybody that doesn't get to be in the room today because you're out keeping the airport working, keeping it safe, keeping it running. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Maybe get a photo of you with our employees.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I was gonna say, I'm not gonna stay for the director's report because I know what the director's doing and and it's all great work. And so gonna step out, but yeah, let's do a picture and then I'll head out. Thank you all. Good to see you.
I like your camera.
Where would you like it to go?
How about maybe in front of the backdrop of the. Do you want to take it? Yeah. And if we can have Chief Hummel as well and Sergeant Reimers and Lieutenant Hunter.
Guys, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be in. I can just stand up right here.
So get over here. It's in there, Mike.
Sorry if I missed it.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you making the trip.
Ready to move on.
Yeah, Chief Hummel, do you want to?
No, I just didn't want to leave if you guys had specific questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yes, okay. That was a big number 2. So we'll move on to approval of minutes. I know not quite as exciting, but why don't we
entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month, or I guess 2 months ago.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move to approve the minutes as distributed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Moving on, number 4 to unfinished, we don't have any unfinished business, so we'll just move straight to Rebecca again for your report.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and I will get right into the report. I think. I did wanna, I know that the mayor was here and she just touched on this. I won't read you the bullet points on the slide. I think everyone probably has read about it substantially in the media. I do want to just take a minute again and thank our team. I know the mayor thanked our team. It's definitely a tragic day. We had people who were out on the airfield when this happened, and in fact, Colin was right there when it happened and called to his colleagues who were out on the field doing training, called in the 911 call, and they were the first on scene because of the way the incident happened and where it happened. And so I do want to reiterate the thanks and appreciation to them for their work. That's not really what you're expecting to be called to do when you report to work on any given day. So I really am grateful for their work, and also to Chief Hummel for his leadership. And also Alex was on scene. So many people, Marcus, Michael, so many people who were there, who responded, Hannah, who were part of the response. I don't even want to name people. It's very dangerous to start naming people because there are so many people who responded in ways, big and small, seen and unseen. And but I think the key takeaway is that this isn't luck that they were out there and responded quickly. It's because they are out there every single day. And every time we have an incident, I'm always impressed. Like, oh my goodness, we responded so quickly, but that is what we do. That is the culture that we have, where they are out and working and on the field and making sure that things are operating smoothly. So regardless of what the incident is, we have eyes on what's happening, and that's what enables us to respond quickly. So it's hard to believe that we are still in winter. It seems like we had winter for maybe a week or two. We had a very light, mild December and January, and then we had winter in a week. And again, our team was very efficient. We kept the airport open the entire time. We plow everything. You know, we have great snow removal equipment. We have a great team, and we recognize the importance of getting that snow moved so we can continue with operations. And this is just one comment that we received from one of our tenants. Again, thanking our team for the great work that they do. It doesn't happen by accident. It's just a lot of work, a lot of collaboration and communication. We've talked about parking. It's one of the key things that services we provide, is when people come to the airport, they need a spot. And we built the new garage. The new garage is not quite as convenient as the original, and therefore it doesn't fill quite as quickly. So we wanted to make sure that we differentiated between those two products. We've adjusted the parking rates slightly to create some differentiation, but parking revenue continues to be strong. The garage continues to be full. And we're excited to have that new amenity for our passengers. We also have been working as a team to really focus on what's next. And we did a strategic planning session, which we have some new team members on the senior airport leadership team. You may remember we had a longtime employee who retired, and then we added a new position. So we went from 3 deputy directors who'd been with us for a very long time to 2 who'd been with us for a while, and 2 who are brand new. And so we started doing some team building and some strategic planning at the senior leadership level. And then we also wanted to incorporate the expertise from our managers. And so we had a 3-hour session with our senior managers and key contributors to talk about what's next at the airport. And we really want to focus around some key things. Operational excellence. Obviously, the importance of that cannot be overstated. Financial resiliency, our ability to pay for the things that we need. We want to have an innovative culture where we're bringing forward new technology, new solutions, thinking about new ways of doing things. We need to be an advocate for our community, for our employees, for our tenants, and then our planning and infrastructure. We need to make sure that we have the facilities to accommodate the needs of our community. So those are kind of the areas that we talked about with our team. We are working on our work plan because we're always, as we're going through this tremendous growth phase, we're always looking at what's the thing that we can do quickly to help get us through that next spring break or next Thanksgiving, whatever the next surge is. What's the technology piece that maybe we can implement in 6 months to a year? And then what's the longer term solution that we build? And so we're always trying to think about all of those different components, responding to the needs today, thinking about the future. And so we got some tremendous feedback from our team. I think it was very well received. We've done a survey. We don't have the survey results yet, but I think it was really positive, and they brought out some other things that maybe we weren't thinking about that we should be incorporating into the plan. So it was really great. Back to parking. This one is employee parking. We're getting really close on our employee parking garage. I'm not giving a date yet, but it will be soon. It will be this spring. It looks great. If you've driven by on the interstate, you can see it. We're anxiously awaiting that. And then when we open that, we will be able to move employees from the economy lot to a closer in lot where they don't have to take a shuttle to get to work, because that makes it a little bit challenging when you're trying to recruit employees. The Conrack, also known as the Consolidated Rental Car Facility, we have an approval on the construction manager general contractor agreement. We're continuing on that project. We were breaking ground on that last week. There are some different bid milestones that we are working on. We're validating the pricing on the construction, but we have started work primarily around utility work. We're demoing the old State Aeronautics building, if you remember where that is. If you may recall, those of you who've been on the commission a while, we actually built a new building for State Aeronautics, so that way we could move them out of this building and tear it down. And we are working on a safe pathway for employees to go from the employee parking garage when that opens to the terminal, because that's one of the key pieces that we need to ensure. And we talked quite a bit at one of our previous meetings about our concessions request for proposals that is out on the streets right now. We are expecting they're due this spring. I don't remember the exact date off my top of my head, but on the 17th we hosted a pre-proposal meeting. We had great response and great turnout for that, so I think that there's substantial interest in that program. And then our deputy director, Beth Sumner, is going to talk to you a little bit more following my presentation about our terminal RFQ. That's our request for qualifications. We had a pre-proposal meeting for that on the 31st as well. Again, it was very well attended. You know, I think that when we look at developments, there's a number of airports that are doing very similar projects to what we're doing. And so we're excited to see the level of interest that we are in our projects. If you've flown, you may have noticed this. This is at gate 15. We are, as we're looking at our terminal expansion, and we're thinking about what furniture we might put in there, what gate seating we might want to have. And so we are actually surveying passengers. We've ordered samples from 6 different companies. And we're going to test them out before we make a final decision. There's a QR code and you can vote. The seating area is at B14. So if you're traveling next time, take a look. test out some seats and let us know what you think.
How long will that be up for the survey?
Oh, probably another month. It's been up for a while. So we have some time. But, you know, we're also looking at how the seats wear, their durability. And you can order them with some different features, cup holders, electric charging stations. And so we're evaluating all of those things, including cost. But one of the components is we're asking for feedback from passengers about which seats they like. I've tested them and it's kind of like trying on shoes. Have you ever tried to buy a pair of shoes? And you're like, it's hard to tell the difference after a while. But do you want to talk about emplanements? We haven't met since December, and I don't think we had the November numbers yet. So emplanements were actually down in November. That was the first time in a very long time that emplanements had been down. In December, emplanements were up 5%. And then another record year of travel, we actually had 4.7 million passengers through the airport. So when you think about it in raw numbers, we had almost 700,000 more passengers using the Boise airport this year in 2023 than we did in 2019. So just substantial growth. And again, we're always looking at ways to update our facilities quickly in a way that we can accommodate passenger needs, recognizing that that's a lot more people. I do want to touch on our top 10, and I can't read it on my screen. This is basically first quarter revenues. I think as we would expect, our parking revenue is up substantially. We talked before about the fact that our revenue from our airlines is up. That's part of our renegotiated airline use and lease agreement. We continue to see retail, and I think this is probably an anomaly, concessions up. And then looking at our operating expenses, we've talked before about increases in the police and fire amounts because of the renegotiated union contracts, as well as the way that they're calculating some of the overhead. Parking is up. That's in part because we changed parking vendors. Not that our new vendor is more expensive, but that we're still paying the old vendor and some outstanding invoices, along with the fact that we are seeing an increase in shuttle operation and credit card transactions. Chemicals, those are the chemicals primarily that we use to de-ice the runway. We often will buy those in a big bulk purchase at the beginning, so this is probably higher than it will be over time. Credit card fees, that goes back to, you know, we're doing more transactions and therefore the credit card fees are higher. So nothing unusual or concerning there. And I want to end on a positive note. This was a random email that I received actually this week talking about how amazing our team is. And we know that, but it never gets old to hear it. And so this is really nice to see how much our passengers appreciate just, you know, the basic things that you take for granted, like clean restrooms and trash cans, water bottle fill stations, all sorts of things. So with that, that concludes my report.
Appreciate it. We are on to commissioner comments. Jordan, would you like to say something? Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just briefly introduce myself. I'm a member of City Council. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be the council liaison for the airport commission. I grew up in Boise, so I've traveled out of the Boise airport many times. I've always thought I was just biased, but I think as I've gotten older, I can all to say about how much we love it. Really true. So I want to thank all of the staff that put in so much time. I love that last comment. I was in a new city employee orientation about a month ago, and and was sitting next to someone that was just starting here in custodial work. I think actually maybe had been here for a couple months, and just talking to him about how much pride he took and being able to provide a little extra level of service, communicating with passengers in his native language at times, being able to direct them to places, not just, doing custodial duties. And it made me think of the thing I've heard this before where, at NASA, everyone is launching space shuttles, right? Even the custodians. What do you do for your job during the day? We launch satellites, right? Whatever. And I think that that's really cool about this organization or department unit, is the really amazing things they do. So I do live nearby, and we're on the approach for flights that come in from the east and loop over Columbia Village, and always love seeing the planes, honestly. And I miss the old Boise State Alaska plane. I noticed Washington State got their new version. I'd love to see the Boise State one flying over that again, but I just really appreciate all the fellow commissioners you've been doing for so long. Looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and being able to help elevate needs, goals, those kinds of things to fellow council members and our leadership team. Things like the Conrack facility is really exciting. Can't wait for that to come. Phase 2 to be able to come before us and be able to publicly acknowledge the really good work that's going into that to service our travelers. So that's all I'll say. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. I have to say how awesome it is doing the optional chairs in B14. The signs downstairs talk about making a city for the people, and that's giving people the opportunity to put in their voice. So I just think that's great.
Again, thank you for adjusting the time and making it easier. Even though the interstate has been widened numerous times, it doesn't make it any quicker. As a matter of fact, I think it's worse getting that way this way. But thank you, Madam Chair, and whoever was involved in that. It does allow me to be here instead of on the screen. Real quickly, just an echo of thank you and respect and appreciation for everyone who was involved in that should be the happy here. As someone who was supposed to, know about those things, it's never easy when they happen, right? And it's always amazing to me how people respond, and kindness and love and respect. And so just thank you again to everyone. On a personal note, my 13-year-old granddaughter took first in district in wrestling and second in state. So, gosh, I've been busy running around following a 13-year-old, and I didn't even know girls wrestled until she told me she was going to wrestle a couple of years ago. But that's amazing. I did fly on January 17th. That was one of the days you had, I think, up on your presentation. I was amazed. I was really concerned that the flights were going to be canceled. And that's the only time I've flown in quite a while. But the airport, we were on time, no problems, out the door, away we went. And it was just amazing to watch this airport and how it performed during a very difficult time. So just those couple quick things. And then lastly, on February 19th, in just a little while, I will be married for 46 years to the same woman. Can you imagine anybody putting up with me for 6 years? So, General, I don't know if you have a medal or something for something like that, but if she would be very deserving of something.
I have some of those.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's my report.
Madam Chair, thank you. Just a few things. I did try the new parking facility, and I didn't think it was that inconvenient if you plan properly. And I was in the furthest corner. I couldn't believe how full it was. But we've talked ad nauseum about how necessary it was, but I found it to be quite convenient. I'm amazed at the parking revenues. Prior to me joining this organization, I had no idea what the revenue streams were. And in a lot of ways, you're sort of a parking company. I'm amazed at that. I do love the idea of the passengers test driving the seating. It gives you some cover for those the inevitable naysayers you're going to get when you ultimately make a decision. And then lastly, our company, we have 3 hotels, and we have some airline crews that have contracts with us, and we're in negotiations with a couple of them right now. And the consistent theme with all of them is how terrific the Boise Airport is and how great the city of Boise is. This is, for many of them, their favorite stop. You know, they travel all over the country, and you probably hear it all the time. And I don't think they're just saying that. I mean, I think they really do enjoy it. So it makes our job a lot easier, and also affords us the opportunity to command higher prices. So anyway, those are my
Yeah, well, I don't think anything, could top, having Mayor McLean show up this morning, so really appreciate her words and just wanted to say, thank you again to the staff. And speaking of the staff, I don't know if all of you know all the presentations that Rebecca does, but we have I have a Rebecca Day today, besides our meeting here. She is going to be presenting to the Idaho Travel Council. And then she's gonna be presenting to our Meetings Pro group. So thank you for getting out there in the community and sharing the good work they are doing. Appreciate you. A day in the life of Rebecca.
Awesome. I just kind of want to piggyback on the mayor's words. It's a measure of an organization, not on how well you perform when things are going right, but how well you perform when things are not going right. And the things you do on a quiet day to prepare for those days when it's not quiet is a testament to you. So thank you for doing that. Very, very proud of you. I feel that calls on the national level from the Readiness Center and from the Director of International Guard's office to say, hey, how's everybody doing out there? And I said, sure, honestly, with the leadership that we have at the airport and the amazing staff at the airport, it's just been absolutely incredible. So I just want to say, well done. We tend to think that in the military, we own the rights to reacting to things like combat, and that we're the experts at it. But what we saw last week shows that we have peers and maybe even mentors elsewhere. So well done. That took all of you to make that happen. So it's pretty incredible. Loss of life is always difficult. But again, how you deal with it is how we are measured. So very proud of you, proud to have our partnership and proud of the leadership that we have. So thank you.
So we did some holiday travel from December 23rd to the 28th and flew to Kalispell. And I didn't see the survey thing. Was it up during the holidays?
I think that it was.
Yeah, you know,
You're probably in a hurry.
probably, yeah. Especially leaving, but anyway, I'll vote anyway. I'd like to vote for the one with the most chargers. So we flew and talked to Jamie about this. We flew on Delta through Salt Lake to Kalispell in order to get to Fernie, BC. And first time I've ever flown into Kalispell. The interesting thing is that, first of all, they call the airport the Glacier International Airport, I think. But when we came back from Fernie, we set, Kalispell Airport in our maps. So it took us right to the municipal airport. And, we were right at the fence, and my wife said, you can't go any further because you're going to be on the runway. And so there's this little hangar there. And fortunately, we left plenty of time, but we were at the totally wrong airport. So we learned something about Kalispell there. Everything else, everything at the Boise airport was very smooth for holiday travel. And we did park in the East parking garage, and it worked out really well. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to point out, or just commend the first responders for the tragedy last week. I was actually just finishing a flight that day and was at Jackson Jet Center and was amazed at within minutes, that everybody was there on site helping. I'm not sure we could have done any quicker. So thank you to the operations and the first responders who were there. Also, I also want to commend the winter ops and the snow removal. I've flown into a lot of airports that don't have the snow removal procedures, and the taxi lane snow removal is just done so well here. So it does make a life of a pilot much easier when you don't have to worry about snowbanks or running over ice. So thank you very much. Boise is unparalleled in that remark. so appreciate it. Anything else? Beth, I think you're up.
All right. Good morning. I'm Beth Sumner, new Deputy Director for Engineering and Planning. It's a pleasure to be in front of all of you to talk about the upcoming concourse. So I have a few slides that I'd like to go through and of course, welcome questions and comments. Next slide. So this is just an overview of what I'd like to cover this morning. Next slide. We spent a lot of time as a team preparing the documentation and information that we would provide to firms that are going to compete to be able to do the design. And so as a team, we really created this vision and we'll continue the effort to develop what the vision is, bringing in other inputs. But this is what we published and gave to design firms that want to compete to get to be selected. So we felt like a sense of place was really important to the airport. I think we've heard comments from many of you about that. Looking for a very cohesive experience from curb to gate or gate to curb, depending on whether you're arriving or departing. We're very sensitive about cost, making sure that we're using money wisely. And also the efforts that the city has when it comes to sustainability and making sure that we're incorporating that into our design and what we do from our construction approaches as well. We're really trying to bring in the maintenance of the facility and bring the experts in that take care of our current concourse and bring in their inputs as well. So how to maintain the facilities is equally important. We want to be very flexible and make sure that we're thinking about beyond just the next 5 years and that we're ready for the next 20 years. And of course, amenities and art and technology, I think are really important elements that passengers expect and want to have when they come and spend a little bit of time in our concourse. Next. So we did a request for qualifications. The difference in that is a request for proposal would be we would get basically an initial concept and there were probably a dollar amount associated with that. Request for qualifications is more looking historically. What experience, what do you have in your background that you've done like a project? We felt like that would get us to the best beginning point as we go into creating a design for our concourse. So we added a couple of areas. You know, everyone talks about the new terminal. We actually had a project sitting out there in an out year to renovate Concourse B, and we thought it would be important to bring the two projects under one design, really looking for you know, a similar experience in both of the concourses, making sure you feel like you're in the same airport, whether you're in Concourse A or in Concourse B. And then acknowledging that if you build 10 more gates, there's probably some other areas that you need to consider, like ticketing, baggage handling, maybe TSA expansion, even though I know we just did that about a year ago, but wanting to be thoughtful and prepared for those other elements that could be impacted. And then under the other areas, for this design firm that we select, it's more than just designing a concourse. We'll bring in a construction manager, general contractor. And so the interaction and the teamwork between the design firm and the construction company is really critical and really important to get a successful project completed. Value engineering is something, you know, not having when we agree and sign a contract with a firm, or when we make a recommendation for the firm, we won't know price at that point. And so value engineering becomes a really important part of this. We start to kind of get our arms around what all the stakeholders want in the concourse. And then we have to kind of bring in some realism in terms of what can we afford as an airport. The value engineering approach really helps us get a good solution. Cost estimating, that's something that we found if we do cost estimating with a design firm as well as with the construction company, really matching those two cost estimates up to one another, you can really uncover a lot of potential future issues that maybe the design firm wasn't counting something or the construction firm wasn't seeing something. So it's a really great accountability check for the overall design. And then I want to highlight construction administration services. So we'll keep this design firm on while we go through construction. A lot of times you can't account for every situation. There'll be requests for information. Maybe there's a product that we can't get that was in the specification. So having a design firm there to help answer that will be critical in keeping on our timeline and our budget. Next.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, real quick.
Yes.
I didn't see it up there, but I assume because I think that's the way we've always done it, but someplace in there. With value engineering and through the process, there's a guaranteed maximum price that is given. And so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't see it there, but I'm assuming that is part of the process.
Yes, it will be. So that will be part of our construction contract is we will have guaranteed maximum price packages, similar to what we've been doing with the consolidated rental car facility. So it will take a very similar approach. Yes.
I just assumed that. But
Yes, no, it's good to clarify. Thank you. So just a little more detail about the project areas and the graphic that's on the right-hand side of the slide was included as one of our exhibits in the RFQ. So you can see on the west side of our current location is a depiction of the up to 10 gates proposal for the Concourse A. So it's in that darker blue shaded area. Currently, what we have specified is about an 80,000 square foot double loaded pier. Approximately 10 gates is what we're looking to add. The second phase of this project will be Concourse B renovation. So that's the purple area everyone's familiar with. And that's a little bit smaller square footage. You can see the number of aircraft parking positions we have. And again, wanting to make sure that we have this theme that exists between those two concourses. And I think it's important to note that even though we're proposing 10 gates, because the Concourse B renovation will be happening on the heels, I think at any given moment, initially it'll feel like we've only added 6 gates because we're thinking we'll probably take down about 4 gates in Concourse B. So it's actually allowing us to maintain our operations and expand a little bit while we're wanting to renovate the existing concourse. And then, as I mentioned, some of the other terminal improvement areas. So that's that lighter blue shaded area. Yes, sir.
Could you explain double loaded pier?
My understanding is that it's because we have a north side to the apron as well as a south side, it allows us basically to have loading on both sides as you walk through the concourse, very similar to what we have in Concourse B. Right, timeline. So this really just addresses the RFQ timeline, not the overall construction timeline. So it's we've had the RFQ advertised for almost a month. It'll close the middle of February, and then we'll be pulling an evaluation committee together made up of experts from concourse development, as well as airlines and city and then Boise Airport employees, with the intent to make a selection on a firm by the end of March. It'll take us some time to get through some contract negotiations, get approval from city council. And then the idea is that we would have the award completed by the end of May and then start the design process in June. I did want to go over, I know Kelly went over, I think our last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago, just some guidance in terms of, based on your position on the commission, you may be approached, you may have already been approached about the design and then, you know, future construction. And so we try to maintain a very open playing field for all firms that can compete for this, giving everyone the, you know, an equal opportunity to participate. There is a city website. We can make sure that you have that. So if you do get questions, you can direct people to that city website. The procedures that we put in place in the RFQ is that the questions must be submitted in writing, and then they go to our purchasing expert, Missy Grotehouse, and she's really screening the questions. She'll get them to us. We answer the questions, and then she's really the face of the questions that come from the design firms and then for future construction. So not even airport staff is answering questions directly. We're really using our purchasing team to help manage those relationships. So just as an awareness piece for you. And of course, we're not accepting gifts or lunch or any of those types of invites because we have this active RFQ on the street right now. So we had our pre-submission meeting last Wednesday. I think it was already mentioned. We had a really great turnout, great participation. It was held on Teams, so people from all over the United States were able to participate. We do see a vision process going forward and are very interested in incorporating you all to participate in that process, trying to bring in stakeholder input. And so that's just being defined at this point, so we can provide future updates about what that's going to look like. But really having pointed discussions about what our priorities are, so that when we make a selection on the design firm and we do a kickoff with them, we want to be really great partners and able to communicate what the needs are and then what the priorities are for the airport. Because invariably, we're going to face situations where we're not going to be able to do everything that we want to. So we want some guiding principles to help us when we come to tough calls, knowing where the priorities are at. I think that might be my, and then finally, some evaluation criteria. Just in full transparency, probably the key thing to highlight, you can see that we really weighted identification of firms, team, and key staff as the most important area we felt as we're evaluating submissions that we'll get at the end of this month. A select number will get to go on to an interview process. We're still kind of shaping what the interview will look like, but we'd like to invite them on site and have a good discussion about what our relationship would be like going forward as a design team. I think that is all my formal sides, and I'm ready to answer questions.
Question. The design firm and the construction firm, are they being selected independent from one another, or do they oftentimes come together for one?
Good question. The way that we're approaching this is that we will have a selection process for the design firm and a selection process for the construction firm. There is a mechanism to do that, and it would be a company that does design build, but we are going with the process of working with the design firm and then doing a separate RFQ for the construction. So I'll do a future presentation about what that's going to look like.
We note that we're gonna do the RFP for the construction firm, so we can bring the construction firm on early in the design process, so we can get the construction firm's input. And that's part of the benefit of that construction management general contractor methodology, is they can help inform the design. So even though there'll be two separate selection processes, they will be aligned and working together to make sure we have a cohesive process and we don't design something that we can't build or that is expensive to build. That's part of the value engineering that we talked about.
Maybe I missed it, or you don't know yet, but is there an estimated time for construction, or is that come out when you do that? Like, will it be done in 2 years once the construction starts, or?
It's a great question. I think we have our estimates of when we'd like it to be done. Some of the phasing elements of this, I think, are going to be really critical in terms of wanting to maintain our current operations and then also building this. So I think if I were to put a rough estimate, it would probably be like December of 2028. But that's, I think, fairly optimistic.
I presume that you're getting some type of representation from the airlines as far as the design and what they would like to see.
Yes, we actually just met with them yesterday, went over very similar information. And then it's the representative from Alaska Airlines. I don't remember his position. Is he their properties real estate person? And he will be the representative for us on our evaluation committee. And then we will actually put out an RFP for an airline technical representative that will then be the main point of contact for all things airline perspective, and will represent them on our team.
Any other questions? Awesome.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Nice stuff. All right, moving on. We are now to questions and comments from the general public. So if there's anybody here that would like to come up to the podium, or anyone online that has any questions, now is your time.
If you don't see anyone waiting online or with a hand raised.
It has been a long meeting, so appreciate everybody's patience and time with this. I think unless you have anything else, Rebecca, I think that probably wraps it up. So I need a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. Adjourn.